Awesome. Hey everyone, welcome. We have a fabulous session for you guys today. We are going to answer any and every question that you possibly have about adding video into every single step of your sales process. Since you are joining us right now, if you wouldn't mind going to chat, making sure it's turned to panelists and attendees, saying hello, telling us where you're coming from. We are so excited for today. It's going to be a really, really great session. Also, feel free to drop in your LinkedIn link so we can connect with each other. This is going to be a blast. I know we've got some familiar faces up here. First, Tyler, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, Katie, and hey, everyone out there. It's Tyler Lessard here. I'm VP Marketing and Chief Video Strategist here at Vidyard, coming at you from just outside of Toronto, up here in the Great White North of Canada. It's a nice, cold, snowy day. I wouldn't have it any other way. And super excited to be here to talk about, of course, my favorite topic, which is video in sales. So hello, everyone.
Awesome. We're so excited to have you here. And Melissa, you want to come off mute and introduce yourself as well?
Sure. Hi, I am Melissa Murillo, Director of Sales Development at Spirion. And I'm actually a huge Tyler fan because I think his tips and tricks are amazing, and I've implemented many of them with my own team firsthand, and they absolutely work. So really excited to be on here today.
Awesome. We're so excited to have you. We have people coming in from all over North America. I see some of you coming in from St. Cloud, Montreal, got some Dallas people. I feel your pain coming from Fort Worth. This past week was a mess, so hopefully you were all staying warm and you've got hopefully some running water now. Tell us also, as we're kind of waiting for more people to pop on, tell us what your role is. Don't, throw it in the chat. Are you an AE? Are you an SDR, or this new modern term XDR? So I guess that's supposed to encompass BDRs and SDRs. I don't know. But I believe it's also SDR or XDR or BDR appreciation. So yes, jump in and tell us who you are. I know, Annika. It's a thing, I guess. I don't know. Are you a manager? Are you a team lead? We got some business ops in here. So excited to have you. Amazing to see some sales directors. This is going to be so much fun. We'll kind of get started here in a little bit. Just to remind you guys, we're going to be talking everything about the types of videos you need to be using in your sales process today, right, Tyler? It's not what we can do 3 weeks from now, right? It's everything for today.
You got it. And you know what? We lied in the title. We said 5 videos. We're going to talk about like 55 here today if we have enough. We have enough time. There's so much goodness to share, and we're going to answer your questions too. So be ready, get those question fingers going, because we want to help make sure we get whatever it is you're looking for.
I love it. I love Joe. Thanks for tossing this corporate storyteller. I think that is like the coolest thing. I mean, we're in sales. That's what we should be doing anyways, is being a corporate storyteller. So yeah, make sure. We already have a fabulous question coming in. Make sure that you drop your questions into the Q&A box. Today is going to be a totally different format. We want to shake things up for y'all. So today's conversation is geared by you guys and gals, okay? So everyone that's here watching, if you've ever had any type of question about how do I use video? What are some best practices, best taglines? When is it appropriate to use it? You toss your questions in here, and we're going to get started here. Okay, so we've got a lot of people here today, Tyler and Melissa. This is going to be really exciting. And I think one of the best places for us to start should probably be at the very beginning of the sales process, right? You feel good about starting there? Okay. So whenever we start prospecting, how do we implement video? When do we implement video? What types of videos are best?
Well, maybe I'll kick that one off, and then I can't wait to hear Melissa's experience with her team. But you're absolutely right in that the starting point is, especially for those doing outbound prospecting, is using video as a way to get the attention that you deserve as an amazing XDR or corporate storyteller, or whatever it is that your role is. And in the prospecting phase of sales, this is where video's superpower is its ability to stand out, to be a bit of a pattern disruptor or an attention hack, because everybody is so used to seeing the same old emails and LinkedIn requests and phone calls that are fake to look like they're your local area code, and they just make you want to scream when you answer. But then suddenly they get this email with this video in it, and there's a smiling face, and it's completely different from what else they see. And it shows them that this person was willing to put in the effort, and it gives them an opportunity to quickly connect with them. And so what we're seeing there is that using video to stand out, to get that attention. There was already a question of to whiteboard or not to whiteboard. I saw that in the question here already, and that was relating to when prospecting. A lot of people will have a little whiteboard with them so that they can personalize the thumbnail of their video. So as they're recording, they may, do something like, "Hey, Katie," right? And so when Katie sees this come in, she'll see a thumbnail image where I've got a message written to her. So she knows when she sees the thumbnail, before she even clicks play, that I made this video just for her. And just that simple act of personalizing the video for that person can go a long way to getting them to click through and engage. So that's one small way in which you can do that. I've got a few others, but Melissa, I'm curious to hear what you've been seeing with your own team using it as part of prospecting.
Absolutely. And as many I'm sure have noticed, because so many people are working remotely, we've lost a lot of that face-to-face connection, that human contact. And so I think video is even more important right now, just to have that human connection. So when my team uses it, what we found to be the most effective is not necessarily that initial email, but maybe that second or third email, so that the prospect's used to seeing our name already. They know it's not necessarily just a spammed email. And then when they see a follow-up email or a third email come over with a video, then it's like, okay, who is this person that is so persistent? Let me see what they're all about. And we've seen a lot more traction too, as we've started to use it a little bit more into the prospecting cycle too.
So one of the things that I would be kind of curious about, we got a question, is whenever we're looking at prospecting videos, do we want to make them short and sweet? Do we want to make them super long and detailed? Do we want there to be a video in every single one of our sequences? Tyler, what have you seen as kind of a best practice with that?
Yeah, so you should make sure they're at least 30 minutes long and they really bore people to death when they click play. No. So as part of prospecting, of course, the most important thing is the good old KISS acronym, keep it short, seller, because people aren't expecting your information. They're not, leaning in to go, "Oh, great, I got 5 minutes to spare," right? They don't. So most prospecting videos tend to be in the 45 to 60 seconds. You can go a little over a minute, but that tends to be the sweet spot that we consistently hear from people. That gives you enough time to quickly introduce yourself, tease out the challenge or the problem that you're hoping to be able to solve for them, and then be able to close with your call to action. And it is something that's really important to be mindful of, is to have that messaging thought of ahead of time, prepare what it's going to be, so that you can deliver it in a pretty tight fashion. But what we do find is most people end up getting into a rhythm of saying, "Yep, you know what, there's these like 3 or 4 different consistent narratives I have for my prospecting videos. They're each 60 seconds long, and they can start to do them in their sleep." Sometimes they actually get caught doing them, mumbling them in their sleep, because they're doing them over and over. But they become really efficient with it because they know when they're reaching out, there's one of these 4 or 5 different narratives that I can always pull from to use, which I think is really helpful.
Well, and as you talk about like different narratives that you can kind of pull from, I know you and I've talked about this a couple weeks ago, but for those of you that weren't a part of that Rev Up sequence review, looking at account-based videos in addition to or versus personalized videos. What I mean by that is, sometimes with marketing emails, it's easier to say, okay, I'm going to target dentists in North Dakota, that have X amount of customers or whatever, right? And I'm going to send them like incredibly targeted information that's relevant to where they're at, what they're doing, and the people that they serve, right? Versus sending one-off videos. What do you think is more successful? Is it something that can be working conjuncture, I think is the right word for it. What do you think about that?
So I would say it depends. If you're doing a webinar follow-up, you might be able to be a little bit more generic with your outreach, because this person may be a little bit more engaged, or you just want to say thank you, for taking the time to talk to us. So you're trying to get your name recognition out there even more with that prospect. Whereas if it's an ABM account that you're really trying to target and get into, then I would say absolutely take the time to personalize it. Make it relevant for your prospect. Don't be afraid to have fun with it, because those are the ones that are getting, at least for my team, the most responses.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tyler, what are your thoughts?
A big +1, an upvote on that with respect to those, accounts, those tier 1 leads, those key prospects that warrant it. A personalized video is always going to get you a better response. It's going to, ultimately give you a better at bat each and every time. And what we found there are some interesting things that people are doing with those actually personalized videos. And I alluded to it earlier with things like having a whiteboard so you can write a custom message. And part of the opportunity with video that you don't have with just text-based emails and phone calls is that thumbnail image that's going to show up in their inbox. And so for those who aren't doing this already today, tools like Vidyard and others allow you to record a video and then drop the thumbnail image that's hyperlinked to watch the video into an email. And so when somebody gets that, they see that thumbnail image. And I honestly believe this is where like a picture is worth 1,000 words is like totally spot on. Because when they see that thumbnail, they're going to process a lot of information very quickly. And if that thumbnail image is personalized for them and they can clearly see that, they are always going to be more likely to engage purely because of their expectation of value is higher, right? They can tell that this was done just for them. There's no question in their mind. And we talked about the whiteboard as a way to put their name on it, and that's why people do that. But some other things people are doing to hyper-personalize is they'll do a screen share style video. So you can do a webcam, or you can record your screen with your face in the corner and recording their screen, but they're having something up on their screen that is, they know that person will recognize. And there's some really simple hacks, like you can bring up their LinkedIn profile on your screen and then hit record and have your face in the corner. And, if I were prospecting, Melissa here, I'd be on Melissa's LinkedIn profile, I'd hit record and I'd be like, hey, Melissa, it's Tyler here. I was on your LinkedIn profile and I noticed that you've just taken over a bigger part of your sales organization, which is fantastic. And in fact, I'm helping sales teams just like yours come, battle one of the biggest challenges they all have, which is low response rates. They're doing it by doing that, and I'd love to chat, right? So when Melissa sees a video show up with her LinkedIn profile up on the screen, right, it's like an attention hack, because she's going to be like, what the hell's going on here? That's me. Who's this guy? Okay, I should watch. So that's just one example. There are a bunch of other ways in which you can personalize those videos, not only the messaging, but also the visuals, so they know clearly, yes, I made this just for you.
So I love this emphasis on personalization. I think that really at the core focuses on that like human relationship, almost that face-to-face, Melissa, that you were talking about. And one of the big questions is humor. Humor seems to sell. Do we try to be funny? Do we try to be serious? And I'm curious too, like, what do you see more often being successful? And then, like, does it really just depend on who the person is, right? And how do you kind of portray that through your video?
Yeah, it's a tough one. What have you seen, Melissa? Have you guys tried to bring humor into it, or what do you think?
So I actually had an SDR at Christmas time, and instead of his face, he had like one of these stuffed gnomes with a Santa hat on, with a whiteboard with the name. So it was still personalized, but it was like, why is there a Santa with my name on it? So, I think creativity is still something that grabs people's attention, and can help get open rates up, which in return will lead to those response rates. So I'm all for the creativity and the humor. I think it helps you stand out and sets you apart and makes you likable. It makes you somebody that they're going to want to have a conversation with. I got one, and it was from a guy at Ambition, and he was rapping, and I swear he missed his calling. And I get bombarded by SDRs all day long. And, he was one that I took the time to respond to, even though I'm familiar with Ambition. It wasn't a tool that we needed, but I still wanted to say that was awesome. And thank you for, your efforts, and keep up the good work. So.
Katie, one of the most compelling stats I heard this year was that 100% of people we sell to are real humans. I don't know if you guys heard that too, but apparently it's real. And apparently people like to laugh, right? They like to smile. They also, like people that they can trust and they feel are being authentic, right? So humor works, but it doesn't, like, what I always think about with video is that it is an opportunity to amplify parts of your personality in ways that no other medium can. And some people can absolutely pull off humor, right? And that'll work for them. Other people can't, and they shouldn't, because they don't do it well, and that's fine, right? But if you're the kind of person who's really passionate about what you do, bring that into your videos, right? Like, don't just sit back and read a script. Like, lean into it, get your hands ready, and show that person. Be like, I am so convinced that I can help you, and I really want a shot at doing that, because that's what gets me going. That's what wakes me up in the morning, right? Use that passion. If it's humor, that's great. If it's you're the smartest cat in the house, and you want to show them, hey, you know what? I'm super smart, and I've got a really great idea for you. That's great too, right? So pick your tone, pick your style based on what can work for you. But I love what you said, Melissa. Like, don't be afraid to get creative, because not every video has to be like that, and you can't. You're going to be inefficient if every time you're trying to come up with a new joke. But every once in a while, if you can find those opportunities, it's so great. And it's actually quite liberating and fun as a seller to be able to actually do this once you lean into it. It's way better than writing a crappy email. It's way better.
I think it's just so interesting. But it's just, there's just this concept or this idea that, like, young sellers in this, take your leave it. I love to hear your opinion on it, but that young sellers, right? Like, we always have to follow a script. And I think up to a point that's so important, as you're learning the product, as you're learning how you feel on the phones, and as you're learning how you feel with customers and prospects and talking, because it's very different. But with video, what would you say to someone who's like, okay, I know I need to do this, but I'm scared shitless. How do I take the first step? Because I think you've got some pretty good advice for that too.
Yeah, it is a tough one. And Melissa, do you have any experience from your own world of, like, working with reps, or even yourself? Like, have you seen people that have struggled with it, and how to get them going?
With the video, yes, because it can push people very much out of their comfort zone. So I've had people that will even videotape their pets and talk in the background, so that they don't have to be on camera. And it's still effective, and it still gets responses, because who doesn't love to see, a cute golden retriever as the thumbnail picture? So, I mean, I'm more likely to click on a cute dog. So, I mean, you don't necessarily have to be on camera. There's ways to get out of your comfort zone and still make video effective.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And there's other things, like, you often will see people using the screen share video with just their face in the corner, in a similar vein, where they don't necessarily feel comfortable being the center of attention in the video. But yeah, you can pull up a screen share, pull up the prospect's website, pull up something they shared on LinkedIn, and have that up on the screen with your face in the corner. And, ideally you use that to pivot into the conversation. Like, if there's a pet there, it's always nice to be able to somehow dovetail from the pet to what you want to talk about. But it's little things like that can be super effective when people aren't super comfortable. The other thing to be mindful of is, a great way for this to fail is to, like, throw it to your team and go, hey, make videos, right? Like, nobody's going to know what to do because it's not something they've done before. And so, working as a team or with buddies to come up with ideas, right? Like, we're going to share a bunch here. You're going to take a lot of notes. We've got lots of resources and other places as well to inspire people, but come up with a handful of example ideas, give people some of those bullet points and then a starting point to say, here, try something like this. And I love the buddy process too, where, like, pair up your reps together and get them to work together on their use of video. have them send each other videos to test things out, right? Have them critique each other's like, oh, your lighting is terrible or your audio wasn't great. And then have them brainstorm together like, oh, I could do a video that says this, or I could do one like this. And even just that of like having a buddy system where people work on it together can go way, it's just like working out, right? Like I haven't worked out in so long because I don't have any friends anymore. But if I did and they kept me honest, I would, right? It's just like, that's the way that we do things.
I really like the idea of a buddy system, and Sterling actually had asked, like, how do you build up your confidence with video prospecting? Outside of the buddy system, outside of, really working with your managers and your team, what are maybe some other options to kind of help build that confidence?
Well, there's, practice is a huge thing for people. And I know it sounds cliche, but the reality is if you're not used to making videos, because it is different from just being on a live call, right? It's much more like delivering a really short micro presentation. And so it is different for a lot of people, but I 100% practice makes such a difference. And what you can do is you can also yourself or people on your team, you can use video internally as a way to practice as well, right? Not every video has to be, this Oscar-worthy pitch to a prospect. You can record short videos internally to ask questions, answer questions, update somebody on, a great win you just had. And every time you do it, I promise you, every time you do it, it feels a little bit better. It feels a little bit more natural. And those things go such a long way. I think it's, that's really, really important. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that we've started doing is whenever we do like our Friday weekly wrap-ups, here's kind of what we focused on. We do it all in video now. And I know for me, it's gotten me a lot more comfortable and confident with it because it's like, oh man, I can actually talk for hours. And it's actually been really helpful because I know it may not seem like it, but it's helped me become a little more succinct in my message. But I know we've kind of spent a little bit of time talking all about prospecting, right? How do we get comfortable? How do we encourage our teams? How can we better set, good examples around video? What types of prospecting videos? So let's say, we've sent our prospecting video. The prospect says, hell yeah, this is awesome. Sure, I'll get on a call with you. Your cute dog sold me. We'll get on a call. What do we do now, right? We have our call. And then how do we use video in this almost nurturing to the close position?
Well, I was going to say even before the meeting, I'd send them a short video as a reminder, right? And like I've heard people say that their no-show rates go down or their show rates go up.
Yeah.
When they send them a quick video beforehand, because it's almost this like reminder of like, oh yeah, he's a real person, okay, and those things help. But that's even a quick place where instead of just your typical email, you can send a quick little video. What has your team been doing, Melissa? Have you been using it beyond that early stage?
That's great. That's a great point too, having them, follow up after they've booked the meeting with a prospect. And that's something we haven't tried yet, but we will now. I know on the backside of the discovery calls too, oftentimes the SDR will send just a short note saying, thank you for taking the time to speak with me. As we discussed, here's what, we covered on our call. Here's the next steps. Looking forward to talking to you, further. So just as a way to continue engagement and, keep that human element going throughout the sales process. And then I guess it goes without saying, or it should, that when you are doing those discovery calls, be on video. Even though you're not making a video, be on video.
Yeah, and I love that idea of the follow-up, which is, it's a really simple thing, right? Because to your point, it's like often we'll send that email anyways. And, I think it reigns true for that use case, but other spots in your process as well, where instead of any time, frankly, you're going to send a video an email to a prospect, is an opportunity to send them a short video. And I'm not saying you always should, but think about it through this lens. Isn't it advantageous to you the more FaceTime you get with your prospects, right? Wouldn't you rather them listen to you and see you and hear you for a minute than just read your email? right? Like it's of benefit to you to get more and more of that face time, because the way our brains process visual information, the way we look at the human face, all those kinds of factors, you become more memorable to them as a person and as a sales rep and as an account. And it gives you, again, those opportunities just to create those moments of connection. And so I'm not saying you should send a video every time, but if you get into that habit of saying, yeah, I'm going to share just short videos when I'm communicating with my customers or prospects, there is a big upside there of just literally getting more face time with them, because they're seeing you, they're hearing you, especially when we're never going to meet them in real life, right? Mm-hmm. And so all those micro moments, like every second of engagement, I think is helpful and something that's really easy to do now.
I think that's really interesting, and it kind of takes us down a little segue of how do we, when we look at like the technicalities of sending these videos and sending these virtual relationships almost, what are some of the best practices when it comes to how do we send the video? What, do we send it via LinkedIn? Do we send it via email? Do we create a landing page for the videos to go to? What are some best practices with that?
I've really been encouraging my team to try using LinkedIn more with video, for the simple fact it's very underutilized through LinkedIn at present. I think I've gotten 2 video messages via LinkedIn, period. Whereas, while I still don't get a lot of video emails, I get even fewer LinkedIn emails. So I've really been encouraging my team to try, some of these different avenues too. So don't just think, okay, video, it has to be an email. You can also leverage LinkedIn for that, which is going to get you a lot more attention, because again, it's really underutilized right now.
Yeah, and with respect to the mechanics of this, because this is important for folks who haven't done it, and there's a question from Mike here about like video files are large, like how is this actually working? And to your point, Melissa, whether you're sending videos through LinkedIn, which I totally agree, like I rarely ever get videos or audio or voice notes on LinkedIn, which surprises the heck out of me because it's right there. So whether you're sending them on LinkedIn or over email, you're never like attaching a large video file necessarily. So on LinkedIn, in a LinkedIn message, once you're connected with somebody, you can use the LinkedIn tool to record a video and send it, and they just host it up in the cloud and it's part of that message. When you're sending it via email, so tools like Vidyard, and you can, we'll drop the link in, but it's vidyard.com/free. You can try it out. And what happens is when you record your video, it's already hosted in the cloud on its own dedicated page, and you're just sending over that thumbnail image and hyperlink to click to watch it. And so what's really important about that is that this process that people are starting to go through of recording and sharing videos, whether it's on LinkedIn or whether it's through email, is actually really easy. And in some cases, I hear sellers telling me all the time, they're like, it's actually easier than sending an email. Like I don't have to type stuff. Once I get good at it, I like literally hit record. It's like 45 seconds and I fire it off, and I don't have to worry about grammar. I don't have to worry about punctuation. I can just speak the way I normally would. And it's actually a really liberating thing for a lot of salespeople once you get comfortable with it.
And you brought up a great point too, in that, if you get a question back from someone you're prospecting, or if it's somebody, that asks just a question, if you're an AE, you can always respond back with video and give a much more detailed response too, rather than typing that email out. And it keeps it more personalized.
Yeah. Does anybody want to see a video from a real sales rep?
Let's see them.
Here, I got a couple queued up here. Yeet. I love it, Annika. All right. I'll share my screen. I've got a couple of examples that like I could, let me just share my sound, make sure everything's good here. So to that point, a few of these are prospecting videos. This is just my own little personal library of some of my favorites. But this actually is an example from one of my favorite sellers, Thomas Buchanan, where he, exactly what you just referred to, Melissa. So after a discovery call, he's following up with somebody because they had mentioned something that they thought they might be interested in. What I love that Thomas does here, he actually, in like his home office, he's actually got like a whiteboard wall behind him, right? I'm just like, that's so smart. At any point, he can just start drawing and showing things. But like, this is really simple. I'll just show you what his video tends to look like. So check this
Hey
out.
Matt, it's Thomas here with Modus. I'm making you this video because on the last call, I heard some questions around how we could integrate our Modus software into your existing digital asset management system as well as CRM. Well, by combining these different softwares, we can make a beautiful ecosystem where we can flow valuable data for sales reps and management into CRM, as well as make the lives easier of your salespeople. So currently you have all of your assets inside your digital asset management system, which is SharePoint. Well, we can take that information and flow it right into Modus,
whiteboard skills,
your prospects and your salespeople.
Right?
We know it's hard to get salespeople to input information inside CRM. I know I don't like doing it.
So like, I'll pause it there, but like, that's like, it's a good example, right? Where it's just like, it's simple. He's just saying it like he normally would if you were like sitting down together in an office and talking through it. But I love Thomas's examples because he just like, when you watch him, you kind of want to smile yourself, right? Like he's this great personable guy. He obviously knows what he's talking about, but yeah, like he's following up with a little illustrative diagram to clarify, like, this is how it works. These are the things that connect together. And I think it's just like so much better than like sending over an explainer video that, isn't customized to them at all. And then this is like 2 more minutes where he's getting FaceTime with them. I think it's a really simple example, but anybody can do this kind of stuff.
Let's look at another one.
Oh, sure.
We've got a lot of people asking for some videos.
Oh gosh. Okay. All right. Let's see here. I'll show you. You know what? I'm going to go back. Can I show you guys my favorite ever prospecting video? I know like we already went through this, but I want to show this.
Patricia Cook really wants one.
I've got a few here. This is Frankie, whatever it takes, Weschler from Dynamic Signal, who earned his fame as a prospector by eating hot buffalo wings while prospecting into the Wild Wings organization, because it was actually prospecting a Wild Wing company. Following that, in this video here, he was prospecting into Vail, the company that actually runs ski resorts. So poor Frankie had to go skiing and make a video while he was skiing on one of their resorts. Of course, booked the meeting because they were like, all right, this guy, he's skiing on our resorts. This is great. But my favorite is Matt Hall from Woodway, UK here. Matt Hall, this is like what I feel is one of these like seeing is believing moments. Okay, Melissa, you're the prospect here. Are you ready to react to this? Okay, so you work at the body shop, all right? You know the body shop, with soaps and stuff and creams. Yeah. Okay. So he was prospecting into the body shop because his business does packaging solutions. Okay. So he prospects into companies that ship physical goods. And well, you know what? I'm not even going to spoil it. I'm just going to play it here. And I want you to pretend you work at the body shop. And afterwards, let us know if Matt Hall gets the meeting. Okay. Here we go. Here we go.
Hi there, Andy.
Oh, your name is Andy.
Okay, hope you're well. Andy, getting in touch today because I recently received a package from yourselves at the body shop, and upon unboxing it, realised that actually we at Woodway could do something a little bit different for you, make the packaging more sustainable, make it more effective for your packers when they're packing it, and also make it a better unboxing experience for your customers. So what I've done, me and my colleague have put together this short video of us unboxing the box. So here you have your tissue paper on the top, products in the middle which were safely intact, which is always a good sign, and then also a little bit of tissue paper on the bottom. And what I did, Andy, is once I got all the tissue paper out, I unravelled it all just to see how much had actually been used. And as you can see from here, it's about 7 meters, which is quite a bit. So what I want to do is whet your appetite with the red paper on the right hand side. Now that's what I use to safely and securely pack your products back into the box. And if you want to understand how I did that, then click the button at the end of the video that says book a meeting. You can then book a packaging discussion with myself at a convenient time for you, and we can discuss how we did this for you. So I hope you enjoyed the video and look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care.
What do you think, Andy?
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. I want to know more.
It's one of those nice ones, right? Like he comes off very authentic, right? Like he obviously knows what he's talking about. But like that was like the ultimate like video show and tell. It's like, here's what you do today. Look, I'm showing you, and then here's what I do, and I can help you. And I'm like, okay, like there's no question that, unlike many other folks that just make claims. So that was like the proving the claims I make kind of video, which is just that, again, it's a different style from just being on camera and delivering your message. And that might be something that you do a little bit further. But to your point earlier, Katie, that's like a hyper personalized example of, they're doing, they don't do these, every hour by any means. But he's now doing this for all of his key accounts, and he's getting meetings booked left and right because, again, it's just like it's standing out, and it's a really great example.
So one of the, a few of the questions that we have kind of can be summed up in one, and I think that video is actually a really good example of the videos. One are not just for prospecting, right? Not just for piquing their interest, but they can also be for maybe soft demos, right? They can also be meeting reminders, meeting follow-ups. What are some, as we're looking at now more of the closing roles, what are some videos that you've seen be like really successful in continuing that relationship as you're going through the buying process?
Well, there's a couple of obvious things that we've seen out there in the wild. One is using it to record custom demos for people and sharing them so they can watch them on their own time, share them amongst different people in the buying committee. And we're seeing a lot of people doing that. It might be a sales engineer on your team that's recording them and sending them over. You may just be leveraging pre-recorded demos and sharing them. Or again, as a rep, you may be doing these little quick recordings so you can hyper customize it for that prospect. And my good buddy Thomas Buchanan, whose video I just showed there with his whiteboard behind him, he's gotten into that rhythm, and that's, he's become a master at this, where when he is working with a prospect, he'll intentionally, if he knows some things that they're interested in, he'll record like his own little 3 to 5 minute quick walkthrough of a feature or a function, send it to his champion there, and encourage them to share it around with other people in the buying process that might be interested in seeing that. Because he knows that not all those people are going to join the next hour-long Zoom call for the big demo, right? And so he's actually recording these and sharing them offline to maximize his chances of it kind of walking the halls of the business and getting people to see this stuff. And he's recording them himself because, back to that thing I mentioned earlier, of he wants as much face time with these people as possible. So it's not just like, here's a link to our off-the-shelf demo on our website. It's like, hey, I made this for you, so I could put it in your terms and you could hear me explain it in ways that you think is interesting. And people love that. They like, oh, there's like that. Thanks so much for making me this video. Like, that was super helpful and it really explained it. So that's another area that we see that people are doing all the time now. And it's a really simple concept. Melissa, anything else from your side of what you've seen or what you think reps should be doing?
I don't believe our AEs today are using video, but I think there is still so much opportunity for it. And I love what you brought up. We do record all of our demos, but are we sending those out to the prospect and making sure that they have those later on so that they can share with the rest of the buyer committee? But I think it's definitely just a way to keep the personalization going throughout the whole sales process. Even if it's, an email that says, hey, we had a webinar this week I thought you might be interested in. Here's the link. Little personalized things just to keep engagement. Even if it's not a sales movement, it's still keeping that relationship growing.
And the thing about webinars, that just spawns another idea of what I'm seeing a lot of reps do, and whether they're SDRs or AEs, doesn't matter, or even success managers, is that when they've got some kind of, there may be an event coming up that you're trying to promote to a customer, or maybe an upcoming webinar. It may be a new product launch that you want to share, right? There are these trigger moments where you want to, invite somebody or share with them or drive them to engage, which are perfect opportunities to use videos. And instead of just saying, typing out an email and going, hey, we've got this great upcoming webinar or our customer event you should join, it's like, record that video, bring the registration page up on the screen, or like shots of the speakers or whatever, and tell them in your own words, like, hey, it's Tyler, I can't wait to see you. You're going to be there, right? Like, this is going to be amazing, right? And you can deliver it in a much richer way. And it just, again, it gives you more face time by doing that. And I think, again, for the recipients, it just makes them feel more special, right? It's like, wow, they made me a video. Like, that stuff really works. So that's another great use case where you've got something you're trying to promote into your base. Those you could also do the one video and you don't have to personalize it every time, right? I'm obviously like a personalization pundit, but if I'm, if we're having an upcoming event, I can record that video once. I don't have to say their name, right? And then I can send that out to a lot of my different prospects or customers as a way to invite them, which I think is another great use case.
I love that. I think that is so incredibly important. That's actually a question that Sawyer had asked, was how do we reuse some of these videos? So especially whenever you're doing like mass communication, try and make the first touch as personalized and custom as possible. But as they go through these sequences, it's really easy to pull up something and say, hey, let's say I'm selling to education. Hey, schools this year are going to be getting 10 times more amount of E-rate funding. What are you going to be doing differently with your purchasing this year, or something like that, right? And talk about a resource that you can provide to help them through that process. That doesn't have to be custom. That's based off of who you're selling to, and you can mass send that. So I think that's really, really stinking cool.
Wanted to bring up too, not just on the seller side, but like our CSMs. They are actually using video, and I've seen other CSMs that I work with leverage video as well, just to keep that relationship with their customers, just to say hi, and we're thinking about you and here to support you, anything you need, because again, it's just keeping that relationship, keeping that human element, and we found that really is a great way to keep our customers engaged and happy, because we really focus on, the promoter scores and how our customers feel. And we found that once we started using video, it did get better.
Yeah.
And you got to answer questions too and explain something. Again, our success managers, probably no surprise, do this all the time, where if a customer is like, how do we do this, or not sure about this, again, like instead of just linking out to a knowledge base article, like, record a quick video. If you're like a software product, it's kind of easy to do, right? You can usually bring it up and actually show them like, oh yeah, here's how you do that. But there's often opportunities to do those little things too, which again, we just weren't trained to do originally, but now you're like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Like, why wouldn't I do that in a quick video? Like, it totally makes sense.
Well, and I think one of the things too, as we look at this process, right? So today we wanted to really cover amazing prospecting strategies. How do we use our videos, before we call, to kind of warm them up, to introducing them to who we are and what we're doing? How do we send them prior to our upcoming session or whatever hour-long time that you have with them? Discovery call. What do we do after the call? How do we send them that follow-up? And that example with the whiteboard was so incredibly important, because that's a really great thing of saying that, oh, I'm listening to you, I hear what you're saying, and I saw that this was a point of contention or some concern. Let me show you how this works, without having to set up another call, right? Because that's, if you set up that other call, you're giving them an opportunity to say no to you and stop the process. And then as we talk about customer success, I think that kind of brings up an interesting point, as we're getting to that closing point. How do we leverage video to get through the close? How do we get over that finish line? Tyler, what do you think?
Oh, I got an answer. And this is something that I learned from a bunch of sellers that I've talked to. I hear it a lot, is that they're using videos as part of their proposals to be able to either walk through the proposal when they send it over. So many of you will already trying to be set up a live call to walk through, a sales proposal. But whether you are or not, when you're going to send it over, if it's a document, bring it up on the screen and record a quick summary overview of it to walk them through it, so that when they forward it around to anybody else who needs to sign off on it, they have an opportunity to click in and listen to you explain it, right? So now they're not relying on you're not relying on your champion to try to articulate the value or, explain what different line items are. These don't have to be like an hour-long presentation of everything in it. But it's such a simple thing to do, and you can walk through it. And again, it gives you a chance to explain it in your own terms, and or you can include videos in your proposal. Depends on how you send your proposals. But a lot of people are doing that as well, and they use tools like Proposify, or there's others where you can actually embed videos in the proposal itself. So as they're going through, you can put custom ones or off-the-shelf ones as well. And I think, again, it's sort of a really good opportunity for people to to help make sure they're going to get that deal done.
I love the idea of walking our customers through it, right? And I think that's one of the biggest themes I hope that people like really reflect on in 2021 is like a buyer experience and walking them through it, and how are you holding their hand, and how are you providing that level of support. And I think by adding these videos to say, hey, here's what you can expect is going to come up next, and once it gets there, hey, we're now at the spot, here's how to fill this out, call me here, I'll be able to walk you through it if you need extra explanation, whatever. And I think something that video opens up the door to that so many other prospecting tools doesn't is you can use video in every single industry, right? Think about real estate, okay? How easy is that for you to call your customers after and say, hey, oh my gosh, we had such a great time looking at homes today. Here were the top 3 that you pointed out, and here's the top 3 things that you loved about them. Here's what we can do next. Really, it's amazing to see how every single industry can be positively affected by video. And I know we've got a few questions about technicalities, but before we get into those, I would just love to hear, what else should people be knowing about video right now? What else can they be utilizing or leveraging it for to make the most out of their time using it?
My team, I just tell them, try it. And the other thing that I would say that worked for my team is when we first rolled out video, I tied a spiff around it. So for every response they got leveraging video, they would get $25. Reason being, I wanted it to become a habit and not just something I was encouraging them to do. So by tying something monetary around it, it just drove home the behavior and helped make the behavior stickier. So that's what I tried to encourage my team using money. But just finding a way to get your team using it and then to keep it consistent have been the big things for my team to be successful with it, at least, is that consistency.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that consistency is so key. And like anything else in sales, as people have wins, make sure you're sharing them around so others can see it, they can celebrate it, they can replicate it and learn from it. And then the other thing that I would really encourage you to do, and I alluded to this with the idea of like the buddy system for people getting comfortable with video, is that make it a team exercise. And again, have some brainstorming sessions where you can collaborate with the team and even go through your existing sales process and work as a team to brainstorm on, where could we use videos? Where would they have the biggest impact? Where do we have the biggest points of lack of clarity? Like, where is there something complex we need to explain where a video might help? Or in our prospecting, right? How would we prospect now that we know we could record and send videos? And by making them a part of that solution, and rather than going to them and saying, thou shalt use a video at step 3 of your cadence, right? Make them a part of the process, brainstorm and come up with ideas together. And I think that can make such a big difference. And then as part of that as well is take a step back. You usually start by going like, what's our process look like today and where do we fit video in? But I really encourage you to try to take a bit of a beginner's mind and say, if we were to redo our prospecting cadence, knowing we now have video in addition to email and phone and social, what changes might we make? And is it an opportunity to refresh what they look like as opposed to just shoving it into what already exists? I know that's a big idea. It's like, well, wait a minute here. We just spent like 3 years perfecting our cadence. I'm not saying you have to, blow it up, but think creatively about it and get your team to participate in that.
I love that. I think one of the biggest emphasis, right, is creativity. So super exciting about that. Tyler, Melissa, if you guys are okay with it, I'd love to spend the next 10 minutes or so doing a lot of Q&A. We've got 20 questions, so hopefully we can get through all of them. I know some of them are kind of related to each other, so fingers crossed. One of the first one is from Gary, and he's asking, I'm working on personalizing videos with names, pictures, etc., and then hooking them up to my list builder. We ask them for their names and email addresses, and if we receive it, we can add them to an automated email response. How do you get people to trust you and open your videos?
Well, getting them to watch your videos is a big thing, right? So a couple things that I encourage you to do. First of all, you've got, if you're sending them via email, it starts with your subject line. And I encourage you to think about how to, again, in the spirit of like starting a little bit over, is rethink how you would do your subject lines if a video was the call to action. So what we see a lot of people having success with is a subject line that says something like video for you, Melissa, dash response rates or something like that, or made you this video, right? Those don't always work, but we found we found a lot of people that have seen success with that because it's different. Again, it's a bit of a pattern disrupt, and it has a greater expectation of value when they see, oh, you made me a video. So get them to open the email in the first place. Then before the video thumbnail image, have your little intro. Don't make it too long, but also try to proactively address the potential objections they're going to have with clicking the video. So number one, how long is this freaking thing? Because I don't have all day. So I always try to say, like, made you this 52-second video to show you this and to introduce myself, right? So tell them that it's a short video, even give it the exact second length because it'll be oddly specific and it'll pique their interest. And then again, if your thumbnail image is personalized for them, they're going to feel much more comfortable clicking it because it's pretty obvious it's not just a spray and pray bot. Because it's their website or their LinkedIn profile or something like that. So those are the three things that I try to use together and go, if you nail all three of those, then your click-through rates are going to be much higher.
That's awesome. I mean, that's actually a really great segue into Alex's question. Does anyone that's currently using videos find that people are hesitant to click on a link that goes externally from LinkedIn? Are there better ways to embed the video better, or what are some best practices with that? Other than, I know you can't really change the subject in LinkedIn unless you're doing a premium one, but.
Yeah, in LinkedIn, you've got two options. One is if you are connected with somebody, then you can use LinkedIn's native video functionality, and you can record a video on typically people are using their smartphones to do it, and then sending it directly through a LinkedIn message. And in that case, it shows up, it plays back right in line. And I think it's a great way to do it. And it's really seamless. The other option is you can use a tool like Vidyard, record the video, and then you send them that link either in your connection request or in a message. And yes, in that case, it will take them off to watch it on a separate page. But that's just the reality of things today. Vidyard does not yet allow you to inject a video directly into LinkedIn, but those are your two options. Yeah.
Awesome. And whenever we look at sending videos in our emails or on LinkedIn, do you have any statistics on like response rates on average? I know a lot of it really depends on like who's actually sending them, what your content is in it.
What do you think, Melissa?
So going back to your previous question, the one thing that we found in terms of open rates was, again, I mentioned it before, waiting until that second or third touch to send the email. So you've got some of that name recognition, so it builds that trust prior to sending the video. We did find that helped our open rates in building that trust to warm it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think we found that out as well. And SalesLoft published a report. They analyzed, it was like a couple 100 million emails sent through their platform, and they looked at different cadences. And they compared cadences without videos to cadences with videos. And they found that the cadences with videos on average had a 26% higher response rate. So it did validate that in general, they were seeing higher responses to the cadences with videos. But they also looked at what point in the sequence did it have the biggest impact on response rates. And it was when the videos were included between days, I think it was like 3 and 15. So if you included a video on day 1, it actually had a bit of a negative delta on the response rate. And so I tend to agree that like you start with a plain text email, a LinkedIn message, a phone call, and then on like day 3, then send the email with the video. Now you're like showing up like this. And then again on day 10, do a screen share video, try a different technique, talk them through something else. And again, in these cases, it can be you. You can also, again, have videos that are already created by other people that you can be injecting into these as well. It's lots of different ways you can do it.
That's interesting. I think I'm sorry, I'm going through all these questions. We still have 13 questions left. A lot of them, luckily, are asking about your camera. So if you just check the comments, you'll see that Tyler did drop his setup. So check that out. I know after our last session with him, he was bombarded with all the messages asking about that. Okay, we have a really great question from Ryan way early on. He's always unsure if he needs to write much in the actual email or just add enough text to guide them in the video. What have y'all seen has been really successful? Do we do a big body and then an extra video as well, or little message, big video? What do you think?
I would say tee it up and let the video speak for itself.
Oh, I like that. That's a good one.
+1.
+1. Okay, so there you go. Short and sweet. There's your answer. That's really good. So I want us to kind of spend a little bit of time before we end here. We really talked about almost the whole sales process. We did spend a little bit of time on customer success, but I know that we do have some in customer success that are on here. So I would love for us to spend just a smidge more on how do we best use video in customer success? Obviously for the handoff, probably, but then what?
Yeah, we've seen people using it. There's definitely the handoff. If you have an onboarding process that you put customers through, you may have on-demand videos already made to help onboard. But for certain clients, we found that CSMs will record sort of custom onboarding videos for them. And they may be doing a live onboarding session as well, or they may do these instead of that. And the reason that they're doing it is not only for the person that they're onboarding and making sure that they've got everything they need to be able to follow through and see the steps, but that if anybody else comes on board into that team, 3 months later, somebody else takes over, that those assets exist and they're customized for them and they can come back and watch them at any time. So it depends on your process, but that's a great opportunity there. And then again, as you go, if there are things that you are updating your customer on, you're responding to questions, you're inviting them to events. And then the last thing is that short period before the renewal is coming up, if you're a recurring revenue business, right? Make sure that you don't show up to that the day before the renewal and they're like, who are you again? Right? So intentionally do that hey, 30 days, we're really excited, start to drip them in closer to that point just to make sure you're kind of back to that human connection. Yeah.
And I think something with that too is kind of back to earlier, these don't always have to be as personalized. I know Tyler is a huge fan. I'm also a big fan of the customization, but as you're going to this countdown, and I love this idea of, hey, you're 3 months out from your renewal. If you have questions, here's what's going on. We're actually, running a discount if you want to upgrade to a hosted or an on-premise solution instead of what you already have. And you can start bringing them back in. I think that's so interesting because I know oftentimes customer success, right? You can have 300 accounts for one person and you're just trying to keep up with it. So being able to have some of these that you can drop into a sequence or a campaign and have that timeline, I think is so incredibly important. And Samantha even throws in the chat, our client success team uses videos to answer some of their clients' questions on specific software features, and they'll actually record a video demo of that particular feature. That's awesome. That's really cool, Samantha. Well, I know we've only got about 2 minutes left. So before we say goodbye, Tyler, one key takeaway that you wish everyone would pick up from today.
Well, I'm going to drop a tweetable quote here, and that is, with video, it's about connection, not perfection. Okay? It's about connection, not perfection. Deliver your message. I'll leave it at that.
I love that. With video, it's about your connection. Oh, so good. Melissa, what about you? What's your one golden nugget?
Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and try something new. The one thing about sales is that it's constantly changing, and what worked yesterday won't work today. And so we constantly have to push the boundaries to be successful. And with video, it's the same thing. So don't be afraid to take those risks and try something new.
Oh, I love that. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you so much, Tyler and the team at Vidyard. This was another amazing session. If you liked it, hop on LinkedIn, tag everyone. Tell us one golden nugget that you took away from all of this. LinkedIn is back up, so no worries there. And hopefully we'll see you all on Thursday for our next webinar. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you again, Vidyard. We appreciate y'all. Thanks. Goodbye, everyone.